Welcome back. Today I have 3 more stories that I would like to share with you. These stories take place between the 16th and 18th centuries. If you like these stories, please leave a like and subscribe. With that out of the way, let's begin. Story 1. A woman who lived on Rhode Island in America was on her deathbed, and just before she expired, expressed a great desire of seeing her only son, who was then a mariner, navigating in the West India seas, and of delivering him a message. She informed the persons near her what she wanted to say to her son, and died immediately. About that instant, she appeared to him as he was standing at the helm, it being night and bright moonshine. She first appeared on the shrouds and delivered her message, and afterwards walked over some casks that lay on the deck, then descended the side regularly to the water, where she seemed to float for a while, and at last sunk and wholly disappeared. The young man immediately set down the time and day and the substance of her message, and found, on his arrival to Rhode Island, that she died at the very juncture when she was seen by him, and that the words she spoke to him corresponded exactly with those she had delivered to the persons around her. This young man had soon after the misfortune to be drowned at sea. Perhaps her appearing to him and sinking in the water was a forerunner, not only of her own, but of his death. Story 2. In the northern part of England, the minister, before he began to read prayers at church, saw a paper lying in his book, which he supposed to be the banns of marriage. He opened it and saw, written in a fair and distinct hand, words to the following purport: that John P. and James D. had murdered a traveling man, had robbed him of his effects, and buried him in such an orchard. The minister was extremely startled, and asked his clerk hastily if he had placed any paper in the prayer book. The clerk declared that he had not, but the ministry prudently concealed the contents of the paper, for the 2 names therein contained were those of the clerk and the sexton of the church. The minister then went directly to the magistrate, told him what had happened, and took the paper out of his pocket to read it, when, to his great surprise, nothing appeared thereon, but it was a plain piece of white paper. The good clergyman plainly saw the hand of God in this matter, and by earnest entreaties prevailed on the justice to grant his warrant against the clerk and sexton, who were taken up on suspicion and separately confined and examined, when so many contradictions appeared in their examinations. For the sexton, who owned a alehouse, owned to having lodged such a man at his house, and the clerk said he was that evening at the sexton's, but no such man was there, that it was thought proper to search their houses, in which were found several pieces of gold and goods belonging to men that traveled the country. Yet they gave so tolerable an account of these that no positive proof could be made out, till the clergyman, recollecting that the paper mentioned the dead body to be buried in such an orchard, a circumstance which had before slipped his memory. The place was searched, and the body was found, on hearing which the sexton confessed the fact, accusing the clerk as his accomplice, and they were both accordingly executed. Story 3. About 10 years ago, when Mr. Bower, an ancient man living at Guildford in Surrey, was upon the highway not far from that place, found newly murdered, very barbarously, having one great cut across the throat and another down his breast. 2 men were seized upon suspicion and put into jail at Guildford. To another, who had before been committed for robbing, as I suppose. That night, this third man was awakened about 1 of the clock, and greatly terrified with an old man who had a great gash across his throat, almost from ear to ear, and a wound down his breast. He also came in sleeping, and holding his hand on his back. Thus he appeared, but said nothing. The thief calls to his new companions. They grumbled at him, but made no answer. In the morning, he retained so lively an impression to what he had seen that he spoke to them to the same purpose again, and they told him it was nothing but his fantasy. But he was so fully persuaded of the reality of the apparition that he told others of it, and it came to the ears of my friend Mr. Reading, Justice of Peace in Surrey, and cousin to the gentleman that was murdered. He immediately sent for the prisoner and asked him in the first place whether he was born or had lived about Guildford, to which he answered no. Secondly, he inquired if he knew any of the inhabitants of the town or of the neighborhood. He replied that he was a stranger to all thereabouts. Then he inquired if he had ever heard of one Mr. Bower. He said no. After this, he examined him for what cause those other 2 men were imprisoned, to which he answered he knew not, but supposed for some robbery. After the preliminary interrogations, he desired him to tell him what he had seen in the night, which he immediately did, exactly according to the relation he had heard, and I gave before, and withal described the old gentleman so, by his picked beard, and that he was, as he called it, rough on his cheeks, and that the hairs of his face were black and white. And the Mr. Reading faith, he himself could not have given a more exact description of Mr. Bauer that this was. He told the highwayman that he must give his oath, to which the man readily consented, and took his oath before a justice of all this. Mr. Reading, being a very discreet man, concealed the story from the jury at the assizes, as knowing that this would be no evidence according to our law. However, the friends of the murdered gentleman had been very inquisitive and discovered several suspicious circumstances, one of which was that those two men had washed their clothes and that some stains of blood remained. Another, that one of them had denied he ever heard that Mr. Bauer was dead, when he had in another place confessed it 2 hours before. Upon these and such like evidences, those two were condemned and executed, but denied it to the last. But one of them said the other could clear him if he would, which the bystanders understood not. After some time, a ticker was hanged, who at his death said that the murder of Mr. Bauer at Guildford was his greatest trouble, for he had a hand in it. He confessed he struck him a blow on the back, which fetched him from his horse, and when he was down, those other men that were arraigned and executed for it cut his throat and rifled him. This is the first story which I had from Mr. Reading himself, who is a very honest, prudent person, and not credulous. Thank you for watching. I have many more stories to come, some long, a couple shorts, and maybe a few you might not expect. As per usual, if you have any stories you'd like me to read, you can either leave a comment or send me an email, once again on screen. I also have a Twitter set up. I'll mainly use it for updates, so if you want to follow, follow. If not, don't. If you have any suggestions for how I can improve, that'd be cool. If you want to help this channel grow, subscribe. It'll really help me out in the long run. Alright. Goodbye.